Okay, ladies and gentlemen. All right, thank y'all for coming today. First of all, I want to thank my audience. I want to give my audience and my special guest, my one and only son, Nick Jones. My
Hello,
son, a round
hello.
of applause today, y'all. All right, son, how you doing today? Everything doing all right?
Yes, blessed and highly favored.
That's right. I want to thank you for being here today. I want you to know, Daddy, love you.
I love you
And
too.
thank you for being a guest with me today. We want to talk about father and son love and relationship, and the relationship and the communication, the love and the communication between a father and a son. For those who don't know, I've done 18 years in prison. Would you share to tell the audience how old you are?
I am 20 years old.
So so therefore I was gone. When you got like 7 months old, I got arrested, and 7 to 10 months old, and so your whole life I was behind bars, but you did come visit me. Would you like to share with the audience how was that experience to you?
Well, many don't know my story with my father because I keep that enclosed and I don't really speak about that because that was a time in my life where it really affected me for a long time. It affected a lot of my decisions I made. Like it affected my anger, it affected my attitude. Um, Not to get too deep into detail because it's a really emotional, that's a really emotional part of my life that I don't really want to open up to yet, because I still have a lot of forgiveness that I have to handle first. But um, I just think, um, children that don't have their father in their life, a lot of people don't understand that that's the reason why sometimes the kids make the decision that they makes and well that they make, and they just some kids just need a father figure, like a real father figure. Because I mean I know for a fact that the kind of father I had and growing up, always hearing stories, um, like how you were and how you are. It was I had to see when you got out to see the real you, the real quote unquote big P, as everybody say.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm kind of happy that I actually went through that time because I know and I believe that God does everything for a reason. Um, it was a hard time in my life, but I have a wonderful mother. She did an excellent job and still is doing an excellent job taking care of me within your absence. But it was a hard time in my life. It was real hard.
And for so many times since that day, I've apologized to my kids. A lot of times when we were young, I was 29 years old when I got arrested. And sometimes when we're young, we feel like we can do what we want to do because we're an adult, and like it affects no one else. If I, me, I can make my own decisions, but you know, it, me going to prison helped me to understand that my decisions affect generations of people. You know, not only my kids, but my parents. My siblings. My grandparents. So we have to be cautious about being selfish,
Right.
cause really that's a selfish act. And I noticed you said in the midst of your statement, you said that you have a lot of forgiveness to do. Would you care to elaborate? What do you mean? As far when you say forgiveness, you mean resentment toward me or the situation or the system or what?
I feel like it's like forgiveness that I have to forgive within the situation. Um, but I also have to I have to forgive you. Like I've forgiven you but I have to like fully forgive you,
Hmm.
and I know where I want to be with my relationship with God. So I know one day I have to fully forgive, but it's a lot that within that situation that I forgave because I just feel like people don't understand like the backstory about like with me, like with the relationship with you, my mother, and all your other two baby mothers. So it's like I just for a long time, like, and I'm gonna just be honest, what were always hurting me and bothering me was I didn't get that relationship. Like I didn't get that father child relationship that your other two, well, my other two siblings got. I don't want nobody feeling like I'm shading my other two siblings because I love them dearly. But yeah, I just didn't get that, and it bothered me for a long time. Like it bothered me for a real long time.
So, it was the forgiveness. You did you feel like, for as me personally, I've off camera, you have said to me, my life would be different. You know, what are the things that me personally you want forgiveness for? Maybe it's a few things that I can apologize for, things that I need to improve on to help you reach that point.
I just feel like um, the pain that you, the pain that it wasn't, and I don't feel like it was intentional, but it was like the pain that others had to endure, such as other parties. I wish to not say names, but the pain that you've put them through and the pain that your children had to go through with the absence of not having their father. But even though, and you're not that person anymore, so it's like you don't have to apologize for that because we already had that conversation and you already apologize for all that. But it's just like, yeah.
Okay, do you? I remember your mom telling me a conversation. You was in the back seat. You was a little boy, and you was sitting in the back seat with your sister, and she asked you. She said, "Who do you love more, mommy or daddy?" And you said, "My daddy." And she said she listened to it. She turned the radio down and said, "Well, Nicaris, why did you say it like that?" Do you remember your response?
I don't remember. I was young.
Your response was, "Because I know my daddy loved me." And that's something that I've always prided on. I've never been afraid to say I love you. And as young and ignorant as I was, I always loved my kids. I've always put them first, and it may seem like a outrageous statement, seeing that you know my actions caused me not to be there. But and that's why we have to get to the root of things. I didn't personally meet my father until I was 13, 12 going on 13, due to circumstances that was out of him or my mom control. They was both young, they was kids. I was conceived in New Jersey. My mom from Florida. Grandmother say send her home. You go home. And my father didn't know where I was. They kids. All he knows I was in Florida. And me not having my father, I always told myself that when I get kids, I ain't gonna never. I'm gonna love my kids. I ain't gonna never be. Not that he didn't love me, because once I met my father,
There
he's
was the
a
pain that you felt, the feelings that you felt towards your
right,
father.
right.
Right.
Even though the man that raised me, I have a great relationship with him right now. But I knew that he wasn't my father.
Right.
And that's something that we have to deal with. A lot of time as men, we talk to sweep things under the rug and don't complain, stop crying, don't whine, and don't express yourself. And my inability to be able to cope with being separated from my kids caused another anger in me that was that caused me to act out. And but I didn't understand things then. I was a young man. The root of it is, you know, not wanting to be. When you make a commitment to yourself. I'm the type of person where you don't lie to yourself. And when you're young, you have unwritten rules and things that you tell yourself, and you don't compromise.
Right.
But not understanding that, you have to set things aside for those that you love. The sacrifice. When you think of love,
Oh goodness.
what's the first thing come to mind? If you had to replace love with one word, what would it be?
You know, it's kind of hard for me to answer that question because I think, you know, for me, it's like love. Love is like I don't really think I can replace it with a word because anybody that asks me, they'll say, um, "I love you," and I'll say, "Do you really?" Because it's like how if you love me, it's like explain to me why you love me. Because anybody that I love, I can tell them why I love them. I'm not gonna just tell anybody. Like that's one thing about me. I don't go for, "Oh, I love you," and just be like
Right.
jokingly just saying it. I don't do that because when you love somebody, you show them that they love you. You show the feeling of love, the emotion, the care, like the concern. Like it's so much comes behind that four-letter word that a lot of people play with, and that's just something I don't play with. But I don't just tell everybody I love them. So if I could think, I don't even know, cause I just feel like why do you love me? Like because if I love you, I'm gonna be showing you that I love you. I'm gonna be like if anybody asks me, well why you love me? How you know you love me? I can explain to you why I love you because I'm telling you I love you for a reason.
It's funny you put it that way because my wife tell me, she say, "Baby, I love you," and I say, "How you know?" And that's a very powerful question. So I ask you today. You say you love Daddy. You love me.
A whole lot
Why do you love me?
because my daddy is oh I do should I don't know I don't want to get so personal in this in on this live.
That's what it's about. It's about us showing.
I love my father because I know that my father has my back unconditionally. I know that throughout the years, even within his absence, when he wasn't present in my life, I knew for a fact you have always shown like it was never like a how can I work I want to word this in the right way. It was never like a like a fake kind of love. Like you genuinely sincerely like show that you love. Like it wasn't like a oh yeah son I love you. Like and that's what I always explain to anybody. I say one thing about it I know for a fact my daddy loved me. Like I could be it ain't never no time out of well about one time I can count on one time I was real upset too y'all. I called my daddy and he did not answer because one thing about it if I call my daddy he gonna answer he gonna text back if he don't call back right then he gonna call back and then I might not answer because I might be a little upset because he ain't answer but I know for a fact he going to call back like it's just I know for a fact my daddy love me like I know for a fact you do.
And that is a true statement. Daddy love you. Anybody that know me, I always wanted a son. You know, I got two beautiful daughters, and when they was born, I was still driving about a son. Every man want a son. And but my daughters taught me a lot about women. My outlook on women, like I said, a lot of that was shaped and formed. My mother was my mother is a very loving woman. I grew up in Buzzford Quarters long time ago, and now that I sit here today, I can look back and see that we were poor. But I might have had more than the neighbors, and I never felt poor. I never felt like we, you know, was poor because of the love that I had. And I learned how to love you by the way my parents loved me, particularly my mom. You know, and the time that my father, me and my father have a great relationship now. And so I learned how to love by the love that my mom gave me, and she always, me being the oldest son, she always explained things to me. That's why I always allow you to be yourself. I never try to dictate your actions, and one of the things I had to formulate in my mind coming home was that my my children are not kids. Y'all are adults. Each one of y'all was an adult, and it was like So I try to give y'all space. I understand that my opinion is my opinion. You know what I mean?
Right.
It hurts me to see you make a mistake that I made, but at the same time, especially with you being a male, you being a boy, you can sometimes you got to touch the stove and realize that it's hot.
Right.
You know, but instead of having it on high, if the stove on high, I just got to tackle you down and we just got to wrestle around a little bit. But if it's on two or three, you need to realize that it's hot sometimes. But me and you personally have grown a lot in our relationship since I've been home. What kind of job do you think I did coming home? Let's go back to the day I came home. Let's go back to the night before I walked out the gates. What were your emotions? What was your thought pattern?
Well, I was sad, angry, happy, excited. It was like a lot of emotions going through my mind at that time, and only my mother knows like how I really felt that night before, simply because I just I was constantly talking to her about it. Like, okay, I wonder how's tomorrow gonna be. Like, I wonder what's gonna go on. Like, how's everybody? And like at the time, I was very selfish with my time with you. Like, I just didn't. I'm like, my daddy coming home. Um, Not we're gonna be at this gathering. Not everybody got to share him, and I just wanted that time to be just for your children and your wife and your mother. But it was like I mean, I had to get understanding, like, we all family, so everybody was waiting, not just me. Everybody was waiting before, so it's just like it was a lot.
It's I, I think it's natural. When I first came home, with my kids, it's like for you, like you expressed earlier, your sisters had me in their lives. You never had that, so you like I want my dad. It was like I want my dad. And I
Right.
was and I had a surgery, so when I came home, I was partially impaired, which I still am somewhat, but I wasn't physically the man that I once was. And sometimes when I think about that, if I came home, oh, I'm gonna back it up. I'm gonna back it up. You know, I am a man who believes in the Lord Jesus Christ, and upon my release of maybe the last 3 or 4 months, as I was meditating and fasting, and reading my Bible and things like of that nature, the word podcast kept coming to me. I've never heard the word podcast in my life. You know, um, so I asked people, hey, what is a podcast? What is a podcast? Some people told me, but I couldn't comprehend. I left the streets in 2003. I'm coming home in 2021, the end of 21, 1 month left before 2022. So I can't comprehend I don't know what it is. I've never heard the word in my life. And so when I come home, the Lord just kept pushing and pressing and pressing and telling me podcast, podcast. So when I come home, I asked my wife. I kind of studied a little bit, so I kind of find out what it is, and I kind of I got sidetracked doing things that were good in their own right. You know,
Right.
God bless me to have a 91-year-old grandmother. I'm visiting my grandmother. I'm going to the nursing home, seeing family members. but I wasn't doing what he told me to do. I got sidetracked. I
Your
stopped
purpose,
studying the podcast.
right? And sorry to cut you off. That's
You
what a
know,
lot of people has to realize, that even though we all may go our own separate, we all may do our own little thing in life and all that kind of stuff. But one thing everybody has to know is that each and every human being on this earth has a calling and a purpose. You have to pray to God so that God can show you your calling and your purpose. Like you may feel like whoa, like wait, this not what I want to do, because in your mind that may not be what you want to do, but that's
right,
your calling, that's your purpose,
right,
to walk this earth, this land that God promised us. So it's like, why not do what God is telling you to do, your father is telling you to do, because it's at the time you probably felt, okay, yeah, this not what I really want to do. What is it? But then that's what people has to realize. Find your purpose, find your calling, so that you can go with what you're destined to be.
you know, with me, it was, of course, being gone so long, like I'm coming home to my kids, it's so much I want to give you. It's so much I want to give your sisters. It's so much. I've always been an excellent provider, and I got a wife, a woman that came and married me in prison, and it stood by my side. I got a mother. I got, so it's so much that I want to do, and you kind of get sidetracked, and then with my inability to physically do things, and I ask myself, well, Lord, well, how I get this dealt this hand? I do 18 years in prison. I come home, I can't work. I got, I'm partially impaired. Lord, why I get dealt this hand? And I'm gonna tell you something. I got out there and tried to do things my way. God told me podcast. I tried to do it my way and I failed and broke my leg. Matter of fact, what's today's date?
Today's date is the 12th of March.
I broke my leg March the 14th last year. And when I broke my leg, I sat there on laying in that bed, couldn't walk, couldn't move, and all I thought about was Jonah. How God told Jonah to go preach to the city of Nineveh, and he didn't want to do it. He wanted to run. He wanted to do what he wanted to
To
do,
do. Yep.
and he got swallowed by the great fish. And when he spit it back out on our land, he went and did what God told him to do the first time. So he didn't have to get swallowed by the whale.
Right.
Just like I didn't have to fall and break my leg. But as I sat there in that bed, I remember now I couldn't walk. I said, well, Lord, I take what I was before.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, this podcast is not something that I personally want to do. I'm being obedient. And even the name of this podcast, it's easy to get on here and talk about sports and everything that the rest of the podcast talk about, the women and the men and all of this thing. But I asked God, I said, Lord, this is what you want. Give me the name of this. And he gave me talk, love, communication.
Right.
And it's a lot of people out here today that needs love and communication. One thing about going to prison and learning that people just hurting. It's just a bunch of hurting people in this world, and people that's hurting have a tendency to hurt
For
others.
others. Yep.
And I've seen young men in there, 22, 23 years old, can't get on the phone and call no one. No letters. How can you be 21 years old and no one in the world care whether you're about your well-being? That has to hurt. There's a lot of things that I believe. I personally believe that all situations and circumstances can truly be resolved through love and communication. Because if I love you the way you love me, if I do unto you as I want done unto me, and we're both doing that,
Right.
the world will be a better place.
That's true.
You know,
Genuinely.
genuinely.
Right.
You know. So let's take it back to, okay, if you had to, I've been home a year, almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you've learned about me since I've been home that you didn't know.
You're very stubborn. My daddy, and I get that from my dad. Me and my other two siblings, very stubborn. But I've learned that, you know, I mean, it's and I can't really say that, you know. I would really say decision making. Like you install in me like how to make great decisions so that I won't go down the path that you went down. And yeah, I just decision making.
You know, decision making, and because of that stubbornness that we have, sometimes we want to do things our way. We want to do it.
Right.
We have a trait about, within me and your siblings. We see things different than most people around us. And I chop that up. I'm not afraid to say that we're chosen, we're blessed.
Right.
And when God choose you, you don't get to decide that. You understand what I'm saying? You don't get to decide who you are in God. You had no part in. Well, I had a little part in you being handsome. You look like your father, but outside of that, you don't decide who you are. Just think about how much you are like me, but I was not there to raise you.
Right.
What are some of the things that you notice about yourself, about me that you see so much? Well, about yourself that you see so much in me since I've been home.
Protecting my family. Like I'm very, 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 very overprotective of my family, and like you're the same way with protecting your family. Like you protect your whole entire family.
Yes, and and that's love, because when you genuinely love don't mean that I have to agree with you and you have to agree with me. Love is choosing to love you through your flaws, through your stubbornness.
Right.
And the reason why you say, well, I try to guide you in a way, certain ways, because in the end, you are me. We are one. That DNA. You care to share what that DNA test said? What it said?
99.99999. That's my father.
That's right. And sometimes we as adults want to think that we can lead and guide, but most of raising a child is done at conception. 80% is done at conception. Your DNA is your DNA.
Right.
How you gonna respond to a situation? You know, I was not there to raise you, but so many of our ways are just alike.
Right.
And even when it's times when you see yourself in me, you'll flare up that nose at me, but all I'm doing, I'm acting like you. But
No.
sometimes when you look in the mirror, it's not so good when you
Yeah.
look in that mirror.
Right.
And I could be stubborn. It's because I love you, and it's because you may not know the road that certain attitudes may take you.
Right.
So I try my best to guide you through those situations to where you don't make the mistake.
And then I just feel like a lot of people that that knows me, um, like that knew me my past, like when I would say like 10 through like 16. Um, they seen the real, quote unquote, as everybody called me, Pooh Bear. Like that's the real straight raw. Don't care what I gotta say. Don't care how I hurt your feelings. Don't care. Like I just didn't care then. And like a lot of people don't know because I don't share this story with nobody. I had got into a real bad accident when I was 16. I stole my mother's car and trying to do what I wanted to do. I stole my mother's car and I totaled it and I hit a semi going at 80 miles per hour. The semi was going at rated 90 miles per hour. Like I really could have lost my life that night. And I think like my family would tell anybody, like that's when the change started within myself, because like I knew for a fact, like I seen my life flash in my eyes, like I seen it. But that's when I started like actually caring about how other people feel, like their emotions and their feelings, because I really didn't care. Like I just didn't care. Like I was so I wanted to fight all the time. I didn't care. I just didn't care. And it's more to life than arguing, fighting, being mad, holding grudges. Like just talk it out. Like communicate.
You think that a lot of your anger as a young man was due had anything to do with me not being there?
Yes, a lot of it do, because I grew up. I grew up knowing, like I said in the beginning, that I grew up knowing the kind of father you was. Like my mama always told me the kind of father I have, and it was like, as a little kid, I used to be like, well, I used to ask so many questions, and it was like, I would think once the question got answered, like why I couldn't have my daddy? Like I was just having a conversation with somebody the other night, and I was like, a lot of people don't know. Like a lot of people don't know someone's life story. Like somebody could put on this picture perfect life, and they have a life story that's like hard, that like don't nobody understand. So it's like I knew the kind of father I had. Like my grandmother, shout out to Betty Boo Classy, Betty Jean Smith. But yeah, like my grandmother has always like told me, took pictures, like showed me pictures. Even though she kept a lot of things, and still do keep a lot of things secret that she doesn't tell anybody. But she always installed into me like who my daddy was.
And I really thank her for that. And you know when a person is not present, for me to be gone for 18 years and these people tell you these things about me, it's like that tell you the person that they knew.
Right.
You know what I mean? And being in prison is like, it's almost like being a dead person, because right now we talk about someone that we both know. We Papa, my grandfather. Okay, grandfather is gone right now. So all we have is the memories.
Right.
We can say, and we can talk about the time he taught you to ride the lawnmower, and the time where you he had he had to get on you a time or two. You know what I mean? So
One
these
time. One time.
right one time, but those are memories. So when I was gone, when people talked about me, it was the memories that they had from me.
Right.
And to my surprise, once I returned home, a lot of things people shared with me, that how they felt about me and things and ways that I affected their life. You know, I'm a much softer man now. I'm not so rough around the edges. I'm not ashamed, afraid to cry. Because of the love in my heart. And even back then, I had glimpses of it, but it's like the cares of the world. The music and the women and it's just things cloud your vision. And with me personally, I think it was just me being sat down long enough for to be reached.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I've always had a certain perspective with certain things I've never done. I never done a drug or alcohol. Just certain things I just never would do. It's like he wouldn't let me, the Lord wouldn't allow me to fall all the way off the cliff. And I always tell you, and along with your siblings, that I apologize for daddy being gone, but I'm a better man now.
Right.
You know, I might have not have been there for your childhood, but even the stories that your sisters could tell you, I never sat in the church with one of them. So in the end, how much of a father was I? You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I might have provided all the toys in the world and all the love and all of the stuff, but if I ain't introduced you to Jesus Christ, what kind of man was I? And it meant so much to me. Like my first Sunday home. You went to church with me. And that was very emotional for me. That was a very that meant a lot to me. And one thing I can say about you, you have some great traits and attributes. You just young, and some things you have to live and learn. But when there's an issue, you one of the first ones you count on you being there. And, and I respect that and I love you for that. You know, I'm proud of the man that you are. Like I say, Daddy love you very dearly.
I love you too.
And and I stand on the mountaintop and yelling and screaming, and I'm dying and killing about you.
Yeah, and same here.
But communication. We've grown. Okay, let's talk about ways that we have grown in our communication. Ways that we have a clear understanding of each other.
Would you like to go first?
No, you go ahead, sir.
Well, I just always, me personally with communication, like I'm just now starting to be more open with communicating to people about my feelings because, like, I always tell everybody, my shower knows me more than anybody.
Your who?
My shower, like the shower, because that's where I pour out all of my tears and my sorrow and my hurt to my shower because nobody's in there but me and the water and the walls. So it's like I've always been the type of person like I didn't want nobody to see me emotional. I didn't want nobody to see me, all down and out. Like I'll be mugged up or have an attitude simply because I'm going through something. But now I've learned like if I feel some type of way about anybody, I'm gonna say something to you about it. Like, and I don't want nobody to ever feel as if like, okay, well, he has a problem with me, he ain't saying nothing to me about it. It's just not a time and a place, but a conversation will be had about however I feel, simply because I just feel like communication can resolve an issue. I gotta take it back. When you communicate with some people, they're not going to take it how you take it. People mindsets are different.
Correct.
However, they perceive the situation may not be the way you perceive the situation. However, the tone that you speak in may not be the tone that they think you speak in.
And it's funny you say that because communication is not just talking and listening. It's about body language, face
Correct.
expressions. That's why even when you're 20 years old, and right now when you try to hide your anger from me, I ask you, what you got your nose? What's wrong with you, boy?
Right.
Because and you like nothing, daddy, but I can see it. I can see it in your body language. So it's the same thing when we're communicating with other people. Our body language.
Right.
So therefore, and our facial expressions. So, and the thing about communicating, everybody wants to be heard in today's age.
Right.
But understanding that I don't have to agree with you
Right.
to understand where you're coming from.
Correct. You have to agree to disagree.
Right.
Like some people, like we can agree to disagree, and some people have to realize that. Like we not gonna come to the same page, especially if it's about a situation that you feel the way you feel, I feel the way I feel. So if people would come to a common ground in today's world, if they just agree to disagree, we may not agree, but how are we gonna move forward? How are we gonna move past this?
And moving forward is the key. And moving forward is understanding that you don't have to see it my way.
Right. Correct.
It's not about right and wrong. It's about how you feel.
Correct.
See, when it's something that's opinionated, if I come to you and I say, well, son, yesterday, when you said that to me, that offended me. And you say, well, no, I didn't. I didn't offend you. You can't tell me that I'm not offended.
Correct.
And, I'm telling you how I feel.
Right.
Now, your response let me know how you feel about me.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying?
Because the response should have been, well, how did I offend you? Like, what did I say wrong? How do you feel like I offended you? In what way? And then if you carry on with the conversation and explain and elaborate a little more, then you can break it down how you were offended.
Right.
And if you just if the other person understands that you did really offend me, like you offended me.
right, and you may have not meant to do it. You may not meant to be
Correct.
offensive.
It probably wasn't purposely.
You know, it may be things in my past life that I have insecurities about
Correct.
that you have no knowledge of.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not aware of it. So for me to, especially with men, a lot of times we don't want to say, "Hey, bro, that bothered me when you did that." You know what I mean? We think that that's showing a sign of weakness, but that's drawing to me that's drawing a line in the sand more so than anything else. And we have to learn to communicate properly. You know what I'm saying? It just be willing to understand, like you say, to agree to disagree.
Right.
It's not bad. It's no such thing as a when it comes to your feelings. There's not a right or a wrong
Correct.
because that's how you feel.
Yep.
Now that may not mean that I agree with that how you feel, but that's how you feel.
Right. It's like it's all about having pride. Like your pride will have you so like how can I say this? People's pride is what holds them back from a lot. Like you have pride, like your pride to like hold you back from talking to somebody. Your pride to have you hold you back from loving somebody the correct way. Your pride will have you holding back from caring for somebody the correct way. It's just if people let go of the pride, and I'm people. If people let go of the pride, then they'll move. They'll move more quickly and more faster in life because pride holds a lot of people back. Like pride to help me back a lot in life. Like I could have been way farther ahead with the mindset that I have, but pride.
Yep, and that's, I got this saying I always said over the years. I say, hey man, I ain't got no pride, man. I said, if Jesus Christ would have had pride, he would have came off the cross. You know what I mean? And you think about that.
Yeah.
And we think about pride. Pride is the enemy to love.
Yeah.
That's an enemy to love, because when you love someone, you're willing to make a sacrifice. So let's say, uh, and some people, everybody wants to be right.
Correct.
Everybody wants to be right. So let's say I know the truth, and you believe what you believe. You're gonna tell me an apple is an orange. I say, so son, that's an apple. No, daddy, that's an orange. The lady said da 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 da. Okay, it's an orange.
Yeah.
And then you come back later and find out it's really an apple. You say, well, daddy, why you didn't tell me it was an apple? Son, daddy told you it was an apple. You believe what you want to believe. You understand? So that's the part, and it's a part of me that I didn't want to come home with. Being in prison, I wake up in the morning, I pray for my family, my loved ones. I pray for myself and for the men that's around me.
Right.
And the word selfish is the word I use. But as much as I love you, I couldn't focus on you no more that day. Because if me focusing on things as home, I might have not have made it home to you.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But every decision I made was because of you and your siblings. That makes sense?
Correct. Yeah. Understand.
You know what I mean? So my every decision is to get home to you, but I can't dwell on you because it'll take my eyes off of my surroundings.
Right.
And it's about being focused and understanding the task that's at hand. And it was some rough days, some rough times, and I had to swallow my pride a lot of times. Sometimes you be disrespected. You be what we call tried. It's things that, especially when you're trying to do the right thing. Sometimes when people see you trying to do the right thing and you take the high road, you know, they'll get out of line. But one thing, Big Pete still down in there. You constantly push him down. But yourself, you are who God made you.
Correct.
If he made you aggressive by nature, you're still going to be aggressive.
Right.
You're just going to be aggressive for him. And a lot of times people think a man of God is a weak man, but that's untrue. I mean, I ain't seen Jesus. I ain't read now a story where Jesus backed down from them. Nobody. He dealt with the spirit accordingly. So if you think you a macho man, you come to me in a macho form, I got a saying that I meet you where you at. You know, they be like, well, you know, why did you talk to him like that, or why did you do that? I just met him where he's at. You know, and a lot of times we have to do that, and to me, that's a form of communicating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people with the different mindset, that's the only way they understand. You know, so I just want to thank you. You know, I have some questions. So let me ask you something. So if you had to describe your father, describe me. What's my greatest strengths that you've noticed so far?
Your greatest strength to me, I feel like, um, what can I say? You got so many. I would say like keeping. You never show nobody else. Really, I can't see that you're like going through something like when you're it's like when you're going through a hardship.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, you never show that. Like you never see the like painful William. You always see the happy, loving, caring William, concerning, you know.
And you know that's because it's genuine. You know, remember the golden rule: do unto others, and you would have them to do unto you. But that being said, if I'm having a hard day and you need me mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever, I'm still your father. Still my job to be there. So, you know, I just have a heart for people for others. You know what I'm saying? And it's like almost like I could take it. You know what I mean? Um, but I have my times. I have my battles. And, and I have my. But I just think positive. I'm just a positive thought person. You know, my glass is always half full. You know, you show some people 8 ounce glass of water, 8 ounce glass with 4 ounces of water. Some people say it's half empty. It's their outlook on life.
Right.
And I choose to think positive. I choose to be positive. Every day I wake up, you know, like I say, I've been home. I'm not able to work. You know, and God make a way. And me starting this podcast, every penny I've had, I put forth to this to get to this point. And I don't know where it's going to go. I'm just trusting and believing and being obedient.
Right.
You know, and I just believe in the process. You just love. You know what I'm saying? I'm a happy person. You know, and that's just you go through life. It makes life more wonderful. You know what I mean? It's no need to you change it. I mean, I'm the type of person when there's a problem, I don't dwell on the problem.
Right.
I come up with a solution, and that's how you get things done. You know, I've always been very goal oriented. You know, so that with that being said, you just whatever you're trying to achieve, you attack it 100%. Very focused. When you think of our relationship, if you had to name something that you would like to be better, how would you like for our relationship to be better? What is it that I can possibly do from my end to make our relationship even better?
Calling me every day.
Calling you every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I be really in my feelings when I don't hear from my daddy every day because I talk to my mama every day, all day. But it's like I don't get to hear from. Well, I ain't gonna say I don't get to hear from my daddy every day, but I don't get to like hear him every single day. So it's like, you know, he it was too long. He wasn't home for me not to be able to hear him every single day, and that goes for me and my other two siblings as well. But people do have lifestyles. Like my daddy always say, all his kids have a life, so he don't want to interrupt their life and feel like he being aggravated by calling them every day. But I'm the one that I want to get called every day.
Now that's one thing. I remember when I first came home. One of the things I said, that was one of the most happiest times of my life. But that was the first time I've ever had. Matter of fact, that was the only day I've ever had all three of my kids together at once. And due to there's really no excuse. But I have one of my daughters, and she's in the military, so she's not here in the city with us.
Right.
And it's a lot of times I have two of you guys, but I never had all three of you guys together.
Right.
And and that's something that I do better. I will make that effort. I will make that effort to call every day. But like you say, in my mind, I try to give you your space. I
Right.
don't want to. I try not to. You know what I'm saying?
Even
Over.
and because I just feel like even if it's not a call every day, just a text. Like, because I just feel like, and I never felt like this until I started working at a funeral home. I feel like you never know when it's somebody's last day. And this is a topic that I want to talk about. Like, people need to understand and they need to know that one day there will be a day that there's going to be a tomorrow that you're no longer here. Like, you have an alpha and an omega. You don't know when you was going to be born and you don't know when you're going to die. So you could not call me today and I could be gone tomorrow. And then it's like, then you're dwelling in your mind, oh my God, like I didn't get to talk to my child, this, that, and the third. I could have, I just, you dwell on it and like you harbor on it. And if you just took the initiative to just do it. But people need to know death is real.
Yep.
Like it's not no like play.
That's
And
right.
like it was when it comes to death, I thought about it so much. Like I always like dwelled on it, but now being that I'm getting closer with God, I'm not where I want to be with God, but I'm getting closer with God. Now I know that it's something that we all have to deal with. Like there's no some everybody may be like, oh yeah, you don't, we ain't gonna deal with the same thing. No, we all gonna deal with something the same, and that's death. We all gonna have to die.
Yep.
So it's like find your purpose. Like find your purpose. Find what you're destined to be on this earth for. What God called you for, because you don't want to die not knowing your purpose.
Right. Son, I want you to know that Daddy love you. I thank you for coming on the podcast.
I love you too.
Um, and for our audience, I want you to know if no one has told you that they love you today, William Robinson loves you, and so does Jesus Christ. I want to thank y'all for coming today and looking at this podcast. Give you a round of applause. Okay, son, I want you to know Daddy love you very much.
I love you too.
And
Wait,
I thank you for coming on this
we
podcast.
finna end it. I thought you had some questions for me. I thought I was gonna get in the hot seat.
You want to get in the hot seat? Well, we gonna end part one because one of our cameras has went out.
Okay.
The camera on both of us has went out. So we'll have a part two. We'll look forward. I want you guys to comment in here if there's a topic that you're interested in hearing. We have a hotline, which is 904 258 8294. 904 258 8294. If you have some comments or questions or topic, or if you want to be a guest on the podcast, shoot me a text, and that's the live line. Anytime we're doing a live show, you can come to that, call that number and be a caller and give your input. It's all about talk, love, and communication. Life will be a whole lot easier. Thank you guys. God bless. You got any last words you want to say, son?
My last words is I don't tell everybody this now, so don't feel all so special, but I love everybody. I'm starting to love everybody, even the people that don't like me, have hatred towards me. I love everybody, and y'all stay tuned because real soon, me and my siblings, we gonna put my daddy in the hot seat.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. It's all about love and communication. So
Right,
hot
right.
seat it is. Hot seat it is. Thank y'all for coming out
Thank
today,
you, guys.
TLC.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, if you end this video now, you'll be able to choose if you want to